Hello and welcome to episode number 13 of our Quality Quick Tip series. My name is Jeff Watson and I am a program coordinator with the Research Planning and Evaluation Division of the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. As always, after you watch the video, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please contact us at dhhs.cqi@nebraska.gov. The court report on NFOCUS has been redesigned and is set to come out with the August NFOCUS release. This redesign streamlines the court report documentation on NFOCUS so workers can more efficiently complete their court reports in a timely manner. In this video, we'll be going over the new court report functionality on NFOCUS and highlighting some of the changes with the court report redesign. These changes were all a product of the CQI process interviews that occurred around the state, as well as feedback from the frontline staff and supervisors like yourselves. The goal of these changes was to reduce the amount of NFOCUS screen navigation that occurs when creating a court report, as well as reduce the duplication of work when documenting a court report for multiple children. Lastly, another goal was that workers will be able to print out a court report and any other applicable assessments or reports in a single page numbered document, so they're all together. These changes should prove very useful for the field when creating new court reports. The next few minutes we'll be going over the new court report screens on NFOCUS and how to navigate through the court report. At the end of the video, we'll show what a new court report redesign looks like, so you'll be able to see all that. Alright, so we are back in NFOCUS and we're going to be walking through the steps of how to create a new court report using the redesigned system. First thing, the court report icon is located right here. It's right about in the middle of the page. It has a big C and an R on it on some documentation. This is the new court report icon where you'll be creating all your court reports. So if we go ahead and click on that, it'll take us to a list court report window where you can see all the old court reports that have been created for this case. It lists them in a ascending or descending order of date, so you can just kind of take a look and see which court reports are already created on there. If you want to use one and copy forward, we'll go over that in a little bit, but that's where you select it. If you want to create a new court report, you click the green button to create a new one. We'll walk through the steps here of creating a new one. We'll show you all the new narratives. So this is the new redesigned court report window. We have the children name here, completed by. You'll tie your legal actions down at the bottom. Over on the right are all the different narratives, child information, and anything else you want to add to the court report. So the first things first is we want to add children to the court report. We'll go up to Actions and Add Children. This part, you only add the children to the court report. You don't add the parents at this point. So for this example, we're going to add Mark, Julio, and Justice. We'll add those three kids, and they pop in right here, and then we're going to save it. When you save it, it goes ahead and updates their legal status and activates all the narratives over on the left side. So for the child narrative, the first thing we want to actually talk about is you highlight your child that you want to talk about in the child narrative and click on the child narrative button. This gives you a drop-down menu here and where you actually want to document your narrative. So we have the 5 child narratives: reasonable active efforts, rationale for placement, medical conditions and needs, behavior relationships, and psychiatric or psychological conditions needs. Sometimes for some of the children these narratives will be the same. So for reasonable active efforts, if you want to type in a narrative here for Mark, and if they're going to be the same for the other 2 children in the household, we can save this narrative. You can go ahead and copy this narrative, and if we want to put it in Julio, we'll go ahead and add it to Julio's. It copies it in there. If we want to put it in Justice's narrative, we'll copy it in there. So now the reasonable active efforts, whatever you documented here, will be copied into those other children's narratives. So just for examples, we'll go show that. So for Julio, child narrative, reasonable active efforts, it's what we put in there for Mark. So that's kind of a time-saving feature of these new court report redesigns. So obviously for some of the children, the child narratives will be different. Medical conditions needs are going to be different for each child. Behavior relationships will be different for each child. And the psychiatric, psychological conditions needs, those are going to be different for each child. So you probably won't use this copy narrative function. You can quickly and easily get through these different areas by hitting Save and Next. It takes you to the next rationale for placement. Save and Next, medical conditions. These are all for Mark. So very easy to navigate, very user-friendly. For the family narrative, these are the family narratives from the old court report. You don't have to select a child for each of these. This is history of previous service intervention, visitation, child support. Your entire summary section is in here, and any recommendations that you want to type out. They're all contained under that family narrative button on the right side. And again, you don't have to select a child for that. If we want to go into child information, you can select all the kids for this one. You can just select one of them. The easiest way is probably to select all 3 of the kids or whoever is in your children's section and click reasonable efforts. This will take you to kind of the same screen we've had before. with a couple updates. We want to show a few updates to this screen. So we can go ahead and select reasonable active efforts have been made to prevent the removal from the home for all three children. This part down here about parental rights is new. This allows you to quickly check the 15 out of 22 count. As you guys know, in a case, something should happen at the 15 out of 22 mark when a child's been out of home for 15 out of the most recent 22 months. We can say that DHHS is requesting an exception hearing due to the child being out of home for 15 out of the 22 months, or that DHHS is recommending exception to filing TPR for the following reason. If we select that last one, it'll give you the 3 reasons here about why we'd want to file an exception to filing a termination of parental rights. There's compelling reasons or insufficient opportunity, you will be required to write a narrative for those. If you pick the one that says relative taking care of a child, you won't need to write a narrative for that because that one's pretty straightforward. But if you have a compelling reason or insufficient opportunity for the parent to complete their services, you will need to describe that in a narrative, which will print on the court report. So, moving on down, tying assessments. This is a new part of the court report redesign that's actually a pretty neat feature. So if we want to select all of the children and click Tie Assessments, it'll take us to the Tie Assessments window. Now, at first glance, this top part is all about tying the case plan. These next 3 windows are all about tying the educational court report and cultural plan to the court report. So if we want to tie a case plan, you come to this window, you black arrow out, you find a case plan for the mother, the father, who's ever adjudicated in this case, and blue arrow, swoosh it back in. And then it'll tie that current case plan, the final case plan, to the court report. So when you print it all out, it'll be in one printed document, all page numbered in order. If you want to come down here and we want to tie an educational court report or a cultural plan to our main court report, we just select the child we want to search it for. Oh, it's going to ask you to save every time you want to change something, so we'll say yes. So now it's saved in there. If we want to pick Mark, and we will look for an education court report for Mark, we'll black arrow out. You can only pick finalized education court reports and cultural plans. So we'll come down here, pick the final one for him. If you try to pick a draft one, it'll give you an error. Just a heads up on that. So we'll pick the final one, blue arrow back, and it pulls in Mark's educational court report. And we can do the same thing for Julio. It's going to ask us to save again. So if we want to look for Julio, go find his educational court report. Oh, he does not have one. Probably make one for him before you do this. And how about Justice? We'll see if he has one. Justice does have a couple final ones, so we'll pull one of the final ones in for Justice. So that way we have that one there. Julio did not have one. Oh, excuse me. And Mark's got one. Same thing for cultural plan. Mark does have a cultural plan, so we'll go in over here, tie in the cultural plan, blue arrow back, swoosh it back in. You can access the educational court report and the cultural plan here if you choose, and you can untie them using these untie buttons. So once we have all the assessments we want tied to our court report, we'll save it. Save and close that window. And you're about ready to print the court report. The last thing you'll want to do is add a legal action here. So we'll black arrow out. We'll find one of the legal actions that we want for these court reports. These are in a date scheduled order, so more recent ones are going to be at the top here. Older ones will be at the bottom, so hopefully it's a little easier to navigate. If you want to check and see what it is, you can double click on it. And this one's for Justin. This one down here. Looks like it has more of our children, so we're going to pick this one. And we'll blue arrow it back, and that ties in our legal action into the court report. Always go ahead and save these things before you get ready to print them or anything like that. When you do want to print it, you can come up here to Actions, Print Draft Court Report, if you want to turn it into your supervisor for revisions, or Print Final Court Report, which is the one you want to send to the court. A couple other things on this screen that we want to go over. This is the copy forward function. So when you do have a court report from the past, you want to copy forward the most recent narratives, you will click this button. It'll copy forward all the recent narratives in all of these areas. So only hit that one if you want to copy forward everything. You're also able to print addendums from this court report. Instead of printing an entire court report and throwing away all the middle pages and just using the addendum, you can now come in here. You want to create an addendum, just create a new one. Very simple, create an addendum to the court report. Make sure you save it, and then Actions up here, Print Court Report or Addendum. Very simple, very easy to do that. We're going to go ahead and print our court report, and we'll come back and show you guys what it looks like. Alright, so after we go to print the court report, this is what it's going to look like for you guys. This is just a view correspondence window. I went ahead and viewed the court report that I was going to print. Looking at the title page, a lot of this information looks the same. Not much changes here with the title page. If you have more than one docket and page or legal action, those all appear here. The children all appear under the parents. Mark, Julio, and Justice all appear there. The judge, case managers, a lot of that information is the same. Here are the first sections of the court report. The history section, visitation plans, and child support. Going down, those are the family narratives. Going down to the child information, this first section is for Mark. We have the reasonable active efforts, and this is where we put in our first narrative. Right there, the placement. This always documents. This always shows up when you're looking at placement, how far away they're placed. You can enter the narrative there. It'll say narrative not entered if you don't have one. The medical conditions will pull in from the conditions window, from the medical window on NFOCUS, so you can make sure those are updated for your court report. Going down farther, the conditions are also now going to pull into the court report, so it's more important than ever to get these updated for each child. Make sure the conditions are accurate, who they're diagnosed by, and end date them if they're no longer a condition, so they're not showing up on here. So, unfortunately, Mark had lots of conditions. Medications are another thing that will also show up here as well. Type the medication name, psychotropic meds, when they started, and who diagnosed it. Those can all be put in here in the medication section. That's all pulled in from the conditions and medications windows on NFOCUS. Another part that will show up on here is the allergies. So if there are allergies that the youth has, and the court needs to be aware of those, so make sure that those are up to date. Put them on here as well. Those will all get pulled in from that window. The behavior relationships and psychiatric psychological conditions needs are specific to the child, so those will pull in from the child narrative section. The next child is Julio. It's going to be the same kind of information for him. He has a couple conditions, his behavior relationships, didn't have anything in his medical conditions needs, and didn't have any medical condition or medical appointments entered. So it's important to make sure those are entered so they do pull into the court report. And we have Justice as the last child. Finally, down here, it shows our summary. The summary section, the summary narrative is in the family narrative section. The recommendations for each child. If you did have any of the 15 out of 22 narratives where an exception would be requested, those kinds of things, that would all show up in here under the exceptions part. Or excuse me, the recommendations part. Justice. And then the signatures. Now the interesting part happens is where it starts adding the other documents we selected, the other assessments we tied to our court report. So that was page 9. The first thing we had tied into it was our case plan. So for the mother here, Jillian, we have our case plan for the 3 kids, all one reunification. This is where all your case plan information would be. The signature page. And if you notice, that was page 10, now page 11, so it's all numbered for you. The next 2 things that were attached were the education court reports. So here's the education court report for Mark. And if we go down a little bit, we'll get the education court report for Justice, the 2 we added. And finally, after those 2, it should be the cultural plan for Mark, the Native American cultural plan for Mark, if you have one of those to attach as well. So that is a basic rundown of what the court report will look like after you print it. In this video, we demonstrated the new court report redesign in NFOCUS and some of its new, useful features. Workers should now be able to more efficiently document their court report in one centralized location, as well as attach multiple documents so that the court report prints out in a much more user-friendly format. We hope you find these changes helpful, and if you have any suggestions or comments on the court report redesign, be sure to let us know. Thank you for watching the Quality Quick Tip video series. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about the video or the format, the court report redesign, please contact us at dhhs.cqi@nebraska.gov.